All right, all right. Good morning. I am so pumped. I just had the most incredible meeting, discussion, time with someone I just absolutely adore. So I'm just going to say, Aaliyah Freeman, you rock. You totally rock. It is so inspiring and so encouraging to spend time with someone who is going through a divine shift, just like you. And wow, to see how God is working in Aaliyah's life and how he's working in my life and see the parallels and see the similarities and see the things that are happening, it's incredible. So we've been talking the last couple of weeks about divine shift. And if you're seeing this little white thing over here, that is a one of those icy hot patches. I have a little shoulder issue and I'm trying it and it's working. But wanna just continue to talk a little bit about this divine shift process. We talked about what it looks like to go through a divine shift. We talked about fear and doubt last week and how to overcome that and what to do, right? And how to move through using Proverbs 18:21 as law in your life, right? And today I want to talk about when it looks totally different than what you thought it was going to look like. Like, wait a minute. Are you sure? I mean, have you ever asked God, am I going in the right direction here? I mean, I thought I was headed in the right direction, Lord, but it seems like we're going in a way that doesn't make any sense. We know that feeling, right? I'm sure you and maybe you're feeling that right now. You've got your plan, you're feeling focused, you're feeling motivated, and then all of a sudden God's taking you in a different direction. It's like a detour. It's almost like your GPS is saying recalculating. I feel like when you're in a place like this, that the best thing to do is to keep moving. Don't stop. Don't stop and look too long because you might be discouraged and you might say, I don't know. Just keep praying and keep walking. So, we're going to talk a little bit about some different people who went through these types of seasons in the Bible so that we can sort of parallel ourselves. If we talk about Joseph, he was like the path of detours. Literally, he was told some things. He told his brothers, they threw him in a pit. He ended up in jail. I mean, he had so many different things, but God gave him a vision. He gave him a literal dream that he was going to be in a place of power. And that's a big vision to see yourself someplace, but then see all these things that are happening and think to yourself, it doesn't look anything like what you showed me, Lord. Doesn't look anything like what I was thinking it was going to be. Joseph gets thrown into jail on false charges. He is forgotten basically for a while. But because of Joseph's faithfulness, and these are the things that I think are important for us to pay attention to, because he stayed faithful, because he looked at every single thing that happened as ordained, divine. God's hand is upon it. Okay, Lord, if this is where you want me, I'll make the best of it. I will work through this. I will do what I need to do. So even though he was put in all these things, he finally was elevated to that position of power in Egypt. And he could look back and see that every single detour led him to his purpose. If you want to read about that, that's in Genesis. So maybe you're finding that every single thing is a detour. It's like, oh, I was headed and things were going good. And now, ooh, I got detoured again. I got detoured again. But Joseph didn't get to the palace overnight. And it's during these detours that he refines our characters. So if you're feeling like you're in a detour season or you're being directed into a path that over and over again that just doesn't feel like you're getting anywhere, embrace that as he's refining my character. He's preparing me for my next move, the next big thing. Then we have Moses. Now, Moses took the slow route. His route was pretty slow. Um, he knew that God had a plan for him to deliver the people from Egypt. But let's talk about the wilderness. He spent 40 years in the wilderness. Exodus 2. 40 years. How many of you are over 40 or have reached that interesting age of 50 or above? So maybe you're in this place where it's like, is there ever going to be the moment when I actually achieve and get to where I'm supposed to go? I've seen this vision. I know that it's supposed to happen. What the heck is going on? I think that, if you think about Moses, he might have been even tending those sheep and sitting with those sheep saying, I thought we were going to do this, let the people go thing. And here I am tending sheep. It doesn't quite match. It doesn't quite work for me. And I know it wasn't a mistake, right? Because God doesn't do anything by mistake. He needed to be in that moment, in that time period, for that length of time to refine his character, to build his abilities, to learn more about himself, learn what he needed to do differently so that he could become the leader that God called him to be. If you're in a wilderness season, know that God is still working. He's working it all out. But your job during that wilderness season is to figure out what it is that he's wanting you to change, what he's wanting you to refine, what he's wanting you to do so that you can move into your next position. All of these seasons that we're talking about are to refine your character. Whether you're in a detour season, you're in a wilderness season, doing something totally opposite of what you thought you would be doing, he's refining you. And you need to embrace that and really work on yourself during these times. David waited for the throne for a very long time. He was probably out there waiting and thinking to himself, Lord, I don't mean to complain, but this isn't very kingly. And I know you anointed me to be king. Why am I out here with these sheep? Why am I in these caves? Why am I killing these bears? What is going on? But he had to hold on to the fact that his promise was going to come true. And those times of hardship prepared him for his position as king. So everything that's happening is by divine direction. It's God's ordained decision. And if we embrace it like that and we say, okay, I know I'm here for a reason, teach me what it is I need to know. I mentioned at one point the patterns of our lives, right? If we are really honest with ourselves, we've been sort of in this position probably at one point or another in our lives. And we have a pattern of how we handle it, how we respond to these difficulties. Sometimes, and I know for myself, I would try to take the law in my own hands. I'd say, okay, well, the money's not coming in. I better go get the money. I better make a way. I better go find something. But remember Zechariah 4:6, not by might, not by power, but by my spirit, says the Lord. We have to get to that place where we allow the Holy Spirit to take over and control it. And sometimes we have to just sit back and not do anything. And that is so hard because we don't want to be lazy, right? We want to work. We want to do something. But God will put us where we need to go. These seasons that we find ourselves in, these seasons of difficulty, these seasons of, I don't really see how I got here and what you want me to do here. And sometimes the motivation isn't there. Sometimes it's very mundane. But Paul, he left Athens, he went to Corinth, and he met with Achilles and Priscilla, who were tent makers. And because Paul was a tent maker at one point, he worked with them in their business. Sometimes God calls you to do the mundane things, the things that you used to do. He has you do the mundane, the over and over and over again, the things that you already know how to do while he's preparing you for greater things. It's okay because Paul did that. He worked with them during the week, and then on the Sabbath, he spread the gospel every single Sabbath. God will show you, but sometimes you have to do the mundane. You have to do the things that you really don't want to do anymore. Maybe you enjoy something else more than what he's calling you to do, but you've got to trust. You've got to do what he's telling you to do, even if you don't feel like doing it. Sort of like exercise. Nobody feels like exercising. But once you start exercising, you feel good and you feel like doing more. Motivation comes after you take action. Always going to be that way. Always going to be that way. All right. So if you find yourself asking God, are you sure this is the right thing for me to be doing? Doesn't feel like fun. Doesn't feel like I'm really motivated to do it. Doesn't feel like I'm really into it. Trust that God is not going to be wrong. It might not be the thing that you expect, but it will take you to where he wants you to go. It will take you where he needs you to be. It will refine you. It will give you the character and the personality and the talents and skills that you have will be developed in this season to prepare you. One of the things that I always want to remember, and this maybe will help you during this season, is God does not see you where you are right now. He sees you as the person that you are becoming. He sees you as the person that you are already becoming. You know, when he looked at Gideon, he did not see a little man. He saw a great warrior. When he looked at David, he didn't see a little sheep herder or shepherd. He saw a king. When he looked at Moses, he didn't see someone who couldn't speak well. He saw a great leader of people. When he looked at Joseph, he saw someone who was going to stand in a place of power and position. He didn't see just an everyday guy. We have to take ourselves and ask ourselves, if I was already that person, if I was already the person that I see in the vision, if I was already the person of power, the leader of leaders, the king, if I was already in that position, how would I behave today? How would I respond to these things? How would I be living my life? How would I be speaking? How would I be handling my money? How would I be handling my business day-to-day stuff if I was already that person? Because that's how God sees you. Start making decisions and start making moves as if you were already there. And watch how God provides you with all the things that you need, all the provision, all the protection, everything. Aaliyah and I were talking this morning about Ruth. This is so good because God brought me to Ruth as well. Ruth went with her mother in law to a foreign land. She went where she probably didn't know the language very well. She didn't know the people. She was really at risk of being in danger because she wasn't with a man. She was just by herself. And so anyone could have taken her and made her a slave. She could have found herself in some pretty bad situations. It might even be a little bit more like today, like the sex trafficking and those types of things, if we can equate this. And so she came to this foreign place, but yet she got up and she took initiative and she went to work. She went out and she started working in the field. Sometimes we got to take initiative and we just got to go get to work. That's how God can start to use us. But God placed Boaz in her life to protect her and keep her safe. Boaz came to her and said, listen, work with my women, stay here on this field, don't go anywhere else, take a break when you need to, and I'll make sure you're protected. When we are in God's divine order and we are doing what he asks us to do, he's going to make sure that we are protected, that we have provision, that we're not going to find ourselves in harm's way. And that is so important when you're in this season, to keep moving forward, to keep doing the things that you know you need to do, even when you don't feel like it, and trust that God will either himself protect you or he will send someone to keep you protected. If you find yourself questioning your journey, remember you are in good company, right? So many of us don't always see how the work that we're doing will lead us to the vision that we have. But God was faithful to Joseph, to Moses, to David, and so many others. And he will be faithful to you as well. I pray that if you are in this season of shifting, if you're feeling like everything you touch is taking you in a different direction, or you feel in isolation and in a season of wilderness, or you feel like you are just beating your head against the wall and finding struggle after struggle after struggle, I want you to know that God has a purpose for all of that. If we will really embrace Proverbs 18:21, speak promises over our situation, speak promises, not problem, we're going to see the results. We're going to see the victory. We're going to get to where we want to go. The vision has not changed. Habakkuk 2:2, that, the vision does not change. And though it seems like it's coming late, it's going to be on time because God is always on time. May God bless you. God does the how, you do the do. Make it an incredible day.